Hello, Internet, and welcome once again to the Free-to-Play cast brought to you by MMOBomb.com, your home for all things free-to-play related. This is episode 277. I'm Mike Byrne, aka magicman, your host for today, September 27th. You're watching it on the 28th or later, and we've got glass ceilings being broken in the realm of crossplay, maybe, or at least like a sky window open so that one person could get through and then closed and nailed shut again. We'll sort it all out and see what's up. And maybe things still aren't great for League of Legends, who's, God, just in general has had a really shitty 2 months as far as PR goes. And then, not that it wasn't warranted on some cases, but we'll get to that. And then I gotta ask Jason, what the hell's going on with Guild Wars 2? So we'll get to all of that and more, but first let's introduce the hosts. Mr. Jason Winter, how are you, sir?
I'm doing pretty well. Just when I was doing the move a couple months ago, I cleaned out my closet, found some old stuff I had lying around. So today I'm wearing my very rare Star Trek collectible card game World Championship Finals 1997 shirt.
Get the hell out of here. What a stud.
No, I wasn't actually a finalist, though. I was the judge that ran the event, so I grabbed one of the shirts from before we left. But that was in Las Vegas in '97. The winner was David Bowling from Michigan. I remember that. So because he was really good, he won all the tournaments back then.
So you are a faux finalist.
Well, I'm better than that. I was actually getting paid by the company to be there and run the shit. So.
There you go. Also on the line, rolling her eyes dramatically, Ms. Quinlan Bowers. What's up, Q?
Well, I'm being assaulted by the sun,
as you can see.
And where he's finished a move, I'm still trying to figure out when I'm moving.
Yeah, you have yet another move in the cards here. It was like number 17 in the last year or so.
Not in the last year, but in the last couple of years, yes. But we've been having technical issues with this apartment. Like our AC unit just likes to leak. And after a while, the floor will become this soggy mess. The guy will come over and fix it. It'll stay fixed for a little while, and then it'll start leaking again.
Ooh.
And it'll become another soggy mess. So the apartment manager is like, well, why don't you move into one of the other apartments? And at first she had us looking at one of the one bedrooms down here, and we're like, eh. So then she decided, well, they'd actually bought a newer property. And they're like, why don't you come over here to one of these apartments? So at first it was, again, a one bedroom. And we're like, well, it's a bigger one bedroom. We can live with it. Then she's like, well, no, wait, there's this lady moving out. And her apartment would be perfect for you guys. So we're still waiting for the lady to move out. And here's the funny part. I've been trying to get the information from her so I can just go ahead and set up the transfers. Because it's supposed to happen like next week at this point. Maybe. The woman's waiting on her house to be fixed for her to move into. So she did ask if she could possibly extend it. But then last night, the manager was like, hey, how would you guys like to live in a townhouse for like $600 a month? It's usually $725. And I think about it for a little while and realize there's all kinds of reasons that this is not going to happen. The big one being, the two big factors being, one, it's $100 more a month than we pay now for the rent. And it's a townhouse, so the electric is going to be higher. And we're already fighting our electric here. The whole reason we wanted to move into the other place, part of it is we wanted a lower electric bill. And I'm just like, no. She's like, but it's the best thing I've got. And I just think you guys deserve. I mean, she's a really nice lady and everything, but I'm just like, no, this isn't going to work for us. And I was like, the dog it's a bigger place for me to clean. I don't need this.
So are we going to have a cast today, or should we just talk about this for the next 40 minutes?
I know, right?
Just talk about this. That's fine. It's just gaming news. Who cares?
But anyway, so yeah, that's where we're at.
All right. Well, good luck with the move, and whenever it happens. And I guess because Jason's being all grumpy, we'll slide over.
I know he's such a curmudgeon.
Get started with the news. Bump. Bump. All right. So first up, kind of big news this week coming out of Sony's camp. We've heard that Sony was not doing cross-platform for a number of reasons over the last couple of years. The latest of which was we're just better. We're just better. So play it on our shit. Don't play it on anybody else's. But apparently, Fortnite was big enough and popular enough, Jason, that they were able to crack the glass ceiling, so to speak, and kind of force Sony into a position where they had to do something. So, this week, John Cordera, president and global CEO of Sony Interactive Entertainment, said, "We've gone through a comprehensive evaluation process, and we've decided, and we appreciate the community's continued patience with, as we've tried to find a solution, because it's all very mysterious. They needed to do a ton of research to figure out what the solution would be, that they are going to open up Shut up, dog. That they are going to open up cross-platform play for Fortnite into a beta access. So now that can go all the way across from PlayStation 4 to Android to iOS, Nintendo Switch, Xbox One, Microsoft Windows, Mac. You got it all. And this is a beta that they're trying to test to ensure that cross-platform play is best on PlayStation while being mindful about the user experience from both a technical and social perspective. Because this is all a big frickin' mystery, right, Jason? like this is
nobody knows how to do this.
People didn't like having their third-party game account locked to your platform when it isn't even your game and it isn't an exclusive title. Yeah, it's really hard to see that people might be upset about that. Now, they have said that they're going to see what this means for future games. So I wouldn't go out on the limb just yet and say Sony is now joining the year 2018, current year argument, as Jim Sterling would say, and opening up cross-platform play across the board. While that seems like the direction they are heading and that they should head, they've kind of left themselves a little bit of wiggle room in this statement, Jason.
Yeah, and I think as much as big a deal as Fortnite is, the thing is that Fortnite was on the PS4. Like, it was already there and they were making their money off it. I still think Bethesda has some play in this, even though they're not mentioned directly, because Pete Hines came out like a month ago and said, well, yeah, it's not going to work if you can't do Fallout 64 or Fallout 76 across all platforms. We have to talk to Sony about that or whatever it was. So I think there might be a little bit more of a company like that, or in future projects. I'm sure a lot of other games, larger games, have thought about the same sort of thing. I think they have sort of kind of Sony said, it's not going to work like that for our. If you want us on your console, you're going to have to deal with this. So, Fortnite's the big name, but it's the one that's gotten the most in the news. But I wouldn't be surprised to know there's a little behind the scenes action going on as well.
Yeah, and I'm sure there is, and we talked about Fallout 76, although that wasn't the title they publicly threatened Sony with. They went with the card game instead.
Oh, that's right. That's
big
right.
whoop.
But I think they said in the future we'll see about that.
Right, but
yeah.
You know what? And as much as credit as I want to give Bethesda, and I did when we talked about them on the show there, I think this 100% has to do with Fortnite. When you're talking about a game that makes over $100 million a month in most cases, you really don't care what the other games may or may not do in the future with a title that may or may not release and be critically acclaimed and well played or anything. When you got a game like Fortnite bringing in dollars every single day, you have to make this. Now, it's cool that they also, not only did they open up gameplay, but progression, commerce. I mean, it's all opened up across all of these. The wiggle room that they kind of left themselves, though, Q, to kind of say, Fortnite is an exception. I'm going to read this to you. Tell me your thought. Today, the communities around some games have evolved to the point where cross-platform experiences add significant value to players. Oh, yeah, just happened today. In recognition of this, and the fact that we're losing some of those dollars that the aforementioned dollars because people are going to different platforms. We have completed a thorough analysis of the business mechanics required to ensure that PlayStation experience for our users remains intact today and in the future as we look to open up the platform. So not that we're going to, but that we're going to look at it. And they follow up by saying, this represents a major policy change for SIE, and we are now in the planning process across the organization to support this change. We will update the community once we have more details to share, including more specifics regarding the beta timeframe and what this means for other titles going forward. And I think that's the wiggle room piece that they left them here. Yes, we're going to look at opening this whole thing up, but we're also going to be looking at this on a title-by-title basis, which I don't like, but at least this is a step in the right direction, Q?
Well, see, that's pretty much what I got from it, because the other phrase that was used in it was select third-party content.
Right.
So, I mean, basically, they're gonna, I don't know, maybe the select third-party people that decide to pay them a little more to do it, or that they're making the most money off of that being on their platform, and they'll be hurt by losing people going, screw this, I'm gonna go to wherever games happen to be available for, like whatever platforms the games happen to be available on. But yeah, it's that select third-party content that pretty much, indicated to me that it wasn't going to be everything. It's just going to be some things.
Sorry for the little pop-up there. I had to turn Q down a little bit. There's a little pop-up over your window. I did a check. The levels were fine, but then you got excited about the topic. The check did not have your excitement in it.
No excitement is allowed on this podcast.
I was speaking normally.
I thought she was too.
Here's the thing now, Jason. If you look across all the platforms now, this leaves now Microsoft in the lurch. So let's say Sony moves ahead and does the obvious, right, and opens up cross-platform across the board. They could wiggle out of that. That may not be their intent yet, but I think eventually it's going to have to go there anyway. So let's assume that they do that. That leaves Microsoft in the shitty position when it comes to free-to-play, because you still need that damn Xbox Live Gold membership to even play a free-to-play game on the system. Do you think that ever changes, Jason?
No, we've been griping about that forever. Like I said, that thing with Victor from Wargaming, that was like 5 years ago when he said we're going to talk to Xbox and tell them how to do free to play right. No, they still haven't. I mean, yeah, maybe because World of Tanks is a big deal.
Yeah,
not quite on par with Fortnite, maybe, but still pretty big. If that couldn't get it to happen, if Warframe and whatever else is out there, if they're not getting it to work.
Path of
I think
Exile.
Microsoft is Path of Exile is a lot smaller than Warframe, but still, yeah. I mean, if they can't get it to work, I don't know that anybody's going to for free to play. And
I don't think Fortnite really cares. So the big dog in that pool, doesn't care that they're charging for that. Well, but like we found a title today that was a free to play title only on the Xbox One, and we were kind of like, how did we miss this? And then we were all like, well, yeah, it's a free to play title that's only on the Xbox One. You got to pay for it. Should we even cover this? Does it count as really free to play at that point? I don't know. But it's really interesting to see Sony open this up. I hope it continues in the logical place that it should go. I am a little concerned that they left themselves the wiggle room, Q. We'll see.
It's Sony. It's kind of like the whole thing with Microsoft, where you're sitting here talking about. I'm wondering, other than Wargaming, has anybody actually tried to get Microsoft to drop the sub thing? Because if people are just paying it and not actually complaining, does anybody care?
They complain.
They complain.
Yeah,
they complain.
As long as they pay,
if they're not complaining to the point that they're like, well, I'm just never going to play this game again because I have to pay for it on the Xbox.
What the hell was that?
Which they just kind of suck it up and eat the cost. So
did Sonic just pick up a ring? What the hell was that?
It's so Bernie has sound. I don't know if you hear something going pop, pop, pop.
We heard a ding. It's not like Sonic picking up a ring.
He's got modified sounds for Path of Exile.
Yeah, there it is.
There it is.
I'm not sure what that particular sound is for.
That does sound a little like getting a ring drop. A ring actually in
I think it's when he picks up specific items or something, but he's got the whole sound thing modified, so it just makes all kinds of weird noises.
I thought I was having a stroke. I'm like, what is going on here?
You might still be.
What's going on? All right. Well, it'll be interesting to watch. No, I don't. It smells like burnt toast in here. So yeah, it'll be interesting to watch. We'll see how it all plays out. And yeah, I mean, even Nintendo looks to be doing free-to-play the right way. Their whole online thing is stupid, I think. But anyway, they look to be doing free-to-play the right way, at least in most cases here. So, but Xbox, yeah, still got to have that gold membership, baby, 60 bones a year. Moving on, so last show, I believe, we talked about, or maybe a couple shows ago, we talked about esports, particularly League of Legends, and maybe losing some of its funding as far as the grandiose nature of all the esports spectacles, because guess what? The return on investment, they were trying to grow the brand, and so they were fine spending the money, but now it's time that it's grown so much. We got to start making money, and they aren't really making all that money, so they were talking about scaling away. Prior to that, League of Legends and Riot had the whole, like, employees being treated poorly stuff, and allegations this way and that way. So it really hasn't been a great 2 months or so for the team at Riot Games and League of Legends. And Jason, in this latest Super Data report, it's not getting any better, is it?
No, their headline is League of Legends heads towards its worst performing year since 2014.
Oof.
So that'll get you right there. League of Legends' revenue is down 21% compared to the same time period in 2017. So I assume that means time period like January through August, because this was the August report. So yeah, I mean, obviously it's still a big deal, and if you look at their chart there, it's still number 3 on PC worldwide, behind Dungeon Fighter Online and World of Warcraft. So it's not like it's it's not lawbreakers.
We made this distinction when we talked about the esports thing, right? It is still making a ton of money. We are not saying, oh, dead game, dead esports. It is so far from that, it is not funny. But Q, when you have a bunch of these red flags coming up in quick succession like this, that is generally not a good indicator of where you might be 6 months from now, which is more of a concern, I think, for stakeholders, particularly companies involved with Riot like Tencent, who want that bottom line. Things just aren't looking good. It's not going to die anytime soon. But are you a little concerned in your chair if you're Riot Games leadership or Tencent leadership?
I don't know that Tencent's concerned about anything at any point. I mean, if they were that concerned, would they have pretty much made their own ripoff of mobile version to compete? Like, I don't know that Tencent actually cares about anything, to be honest. They just put money in, and basically all video game companies are Tencent at some point.
To be fair, that was NetEase that made the rip-off mobile game, which although NetEase is partially owned by Tencent.
But no, because I did a thing about this a while back, and Tencent was basically like, "Well, we're just gonna do kind of So they and Tencent's invested in High Res, which is another competitor. So I don't think that Tencent cares. Actually, Riot, like they might care on like how many employees, whether or not they have to start laying off people, stuff like that. Which the whole point of letting Tencent effectively buy them out partially was to keep from having to lay people off at any point. Like that was a huge part of it. Like, we're bringing Tencent in, they're just taking over everything, and you guys are set. Mm-hmm. So.
Jason, who beat it? I mean, I know World of Warcraft was one of the games that beat it. Kind of obvious, given that this was an expansion cycle for World of Warcraft, and a very, very successful one as far as bringing a bunch of people back to the title. Who else was? Who was number 1 and 2?
Dungeon Fighter Online was number 1.
That's stunning to me that is still up there. That is a game that shut down at one point. Remember? That was shut down in a lot of areas and then made a comeback in a lot of those areas.
Not like the Hero Wars, which we talked about on the website for the first time in over a year because it had been completely forgotten.
Yeah. Go ahead, throw that in here. Tell us what happened there, because it is pretty funny.
Well, if you might remember, back in January of 2017, who makes Hero Wars? The KOG game.
Same people who do Elsword.
Yeah, they said that we're doing the pause of Hero Wars. That's what they called it. It's like, we're just gonna take the game offline for a while. We're gonna rework everything, make it so much better. We'll come back in about a year. And they said that we're gonna take the pause. We're gonna make it offline in March. They did that. Then in April, they just canned everything. So it was like that is one hell of a pause. But,
yeah, now the links just go to Elsword. So,
Yeah, exactly. Well, they took down the website. That's what I found. Is they took down the website in April. Whether the game was still in development, I don't know. But if you're removing your website, you're probably done with the whole game.
yeah, that's the kind of the death knell. And it's good to see that League of Legends still has a website. So I guess I guess we're okay there as far as long term.
Speaking of which, lawbreakers.nexon.net.
Oh, that's officially
Nope,
shut
that's
down.
gone. That's gone. Yeah, that's gone. Okay, all
That's
right.
Q, speaking of Tencent and their whole interaction here, I kind of agree with you that maybe they just don't care because they decided recently to get into themselves the Battle Royale genre, which is kind of stunning when you think about it, because they own parts of Bluehole and PUBG. You know, arguably the number 2 biggest battle royale on the planet right now. They decided, yeah, we're going to make our own one of those. And after watching Troy's first look, guys, I just spit everywhere. That's how funny I find this. After watching Troy's first look, I think arguably they're headed into a place that they have a better BR than their PUBG ownership. So, I don't know. Did either of you watch the first look here, Q?
I did not get the chance to watch the first look, I'll admit. But it like, I know from their descriptions of it and everything that it's, you know, kind of a fairly different format in some aspects and offers a little bit extra, at least in, I guess, flavor. Like with the extreme sports and all of that jazz. But
yeah, I mean, it definitely does. Ring of Elysium is the title we're talking about. If you want to check it out on Steam, we also posted a first look video last night on it, so you can take a look at Troy playing it. Troy was remarkably positive about it. He said, yeah, there's still some performance issues, frame rate drops and things like that here and there, but overall it's pretty solid for an early access. It's a realistic, more realistic than like a Fortnite. It's more on the PUBG side of things as far as the weapons you're using, the graphics. It's more military shooter in that aspect. There are a couple unique takes on it as far as having transport methods via snowboarding down a hill or ice climbing with your picks up mountains and things like that, and those play into your inventory as well. The circles you want to get out of, I mean, you don't want to stick in those at all. As the arena collapses, and ultimately you don't have to kill everybody to win. If you take one of the 4 seats on the chopper that comes down at the end, you're going to be part of the winning team. By the way, don't climb that ladder to the chopper early or you're going to get plucked. I mean, Jason, it is directly competing with a worldwide phenomenon of a product that they already own most of.
Well, I actually looked up just now. Prior to May, Tencent owned 1.5% of Bluehole. Mm-hmm. They were putting in some more money. It says they were trying to purchase a 10% stake. That was back in May.
Well, right. So my point is they own a part of it.
Yeah. You said most a minute ago, so I was like, whatever.
PUBG is bajillions of dollars. Even if you own 5% of that, you're in a good spot.
Sure, I agree, but I'm just clarifying that for anyone who's wondering. But the fact they do own a bit of PUBG and they also own, Epic with Fortnite and with all that, so it's like, yeah, they definitely this time they see that they're cutting out the middleman basically. They're like, okay, we own parts of these other things. Why not diversify? We're going to own a little bit of everything now.
Right. And why not diversify and make a competing product for these other products we already own?
It could be worse. They could pull EAs, buy the companies, kill them.
True.
Instead, they're just like, we'll just buy the companies and watch what they're doing, and then we'll do it ourselves. And that way, if the other company happens to die for some reason, well, we're covered. I think maybe that's the logic.
Right. Well, I think it goes with what...
No matter what happens.
Yeah, I think it goes with what you said earlier. Let's do whatever makes us the most amount of money, whether that's buying a piece of things or doing it ourselves. And we don't care which way it's going to go. Yeah, or both. Whichever way it goes, fine. We're just going to try and make money doing it. What I'm surprised with, Jason, is I initially saw this and I was like, oh my God, this is going to be awful. This is going to be horrendous. Then I watched Troy's first look, and again, it's Battle Royale, so it doesn't excite me personally. On a lot of levels. I'm just generally not a fan of BR. Anybody that watches this show knows that. But watching Troy, somebody that is passionate about BRs, I was like, he genuinely likes this. I mean, he thinks this is a contender, and the numbers are fairly good. It's still very early, and it's that new game peak audience, but it's in the 30s to 40,000 players concurrently on the Steam charts. We'll have to see where that is a month from now and 2 months from now, but could that go up? Troy seemed to think it has a chance of going up because it does PUBG better than PUBG in a lot of respects. And even the areas where it doesn't quite yet, he's confident that Tencent has the money and the know-how to go ahead and fix those things, Jason.
Yeah, I also watched, a couple days before Troy did his video, I watched a streamer that I follow. He was playing this for about an hour or so, and he was getting into it, and he was enjoying it a lot. So yeah, it definitely doesn't have, like you said, nobody's really taking it to that extent that you thought at first, like, oh, crappy Tencent, gonna be crap, whatever. But no, that's definitely not the case. It's a pretty well-made game. I think they have to do more to get the word out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the thing, because like you said, we talk about having 40, 50,000, whatever on Steam, and that's what the peak is most of the time. But PUBG still has like 500,000 to 1 million, so it's nowhere even close to that. I'm looking at Twitch right now. Now, granted, it's 3:41 p.m. on an afternoon. It's got about 2,000 viewers, compared to Fortnite, which has 314,000. PUBG has 66,000. So it has a long ways to go before it gets to there.
Oh, absolutely.
But again, this being Tencent, you figure they have the money and the resources and the patience. They'll take as long as they need to get it there. So I
agree.
It does have that chance, but it's going to need a lot more to get there.
I agree. Right now, 15,000 players on Steam playing it right now. And as you mentioned, It is by far not peak time for this type of game, particularly with a North American audience. We're in the middle of the afternoon across the entire United States.
Steam does peak in Europe. You can look at the chart up there. You see it peaked a couple hours ago. So, yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to watch this one. I think Jason's exactly right. They got to do more to get the word out of there. It seems like, at least as far as Troy's opinion and some other people that I've seen, it seems like this one is definitely headed in the right direction. Does it do anything terribly new? Not really. A little bit of a play on a little bit of play, a little bit of play on traversal of the map, a little bit of play on how it ultimately ends. But in the end, it's a battle royale, and it plays like every other battle royale you've played with those small tweaks. But damn, I kind of caught me by total surprise. I thought this was just going to be another crap fest dumped into the battle royale market, Q, and it doesn't seem to be shaking out that way.
No, I mean, like I said, I think they have the benefit of since they've got all of these companies that are doing like battle royale, because you mentioned they've got Epic and everything else under them. They've got High Res doing Realm Royale. Like they've got so many. Yeah, they've got all these companies. They can sit there and watch what they're doing right and watch what they're doing wrong, and and kind of work on theirs because they have oversight on so many of these games.
That's something I didn't think about. That's a good point. That they've let everyone else make the mistakes. Now they're going to perfect it or something. It's like what Blizzard usually does.
Right? They were like, hey, let's not add a feature that makes our battle royale truly unique and stand apart, and then realize later that really doesn't work in a battle royale as far as longevity. So we're going to take it out. I.e., classes in Realm Royale. Boy, that was. I don't have a lot of hope for that high-res title lasting very long at this point. The truly unique thing that made everybody interested in it, they took out because they realized that's really challenging to keep that bar there going forward. Oh, come on. It's not like that, Jason.
That's what they said. It's too challenging. Like I said, it's too challenging.
Right, but it's a feature that really doesn't fit in BR the way they were trying to do it, no matter how unique it was. We'll see. I think somebody's still going to capitalize on that one right. I just don't think it's going to be high res. I think they alienated too much of their audience on this one. Before we move over to the bombs, I got to ask you, Jason. Let me get your picture up here. What the hell is going on with Guild Wars 2? Apparently, in Belgium, my friends cannot buy gems out of the blue. What the hell happened here?
Yeah, basically you can't spend money on the game in Belgium, which is like, why would you even do that?
All right, so yeah, Belgium's got the whole loot box thing, but I didn't hear Guild Wars 2's name in this stuff at all.
Nope. And as we've talked about, we talked before the show, we've looked at other games, see if anything out there, is being shut down in terms of, other than the games that were mentioned specifically, like was Overwatch, Heroes of the Storm, like a few games that were, and FIFA, which EA is challenging. Those like few games that were mentioned specifically in the reports from Belgium that they were, being targeted by the Belgian Gaming Commission. You have to remove your loot boxes by this date, or there's gonna be problems or whatever. The few games that were specifically mentioned, but otherwise, no games were mentioned, and no games have done anything to their cash shop, altered them in any way, altered anything. We've looked at various other games, except Guild Wars 2, which apparently, I don't know if it was like Thursday or Friday. I think it was Thursday. I think it was the 20th that people were first talking about this. Players in Belgium started saying, hey, I can't buy gems. I get an error when I go there. And someone posted that on Reddit, and a few other guys were like, yeah, same thing. And the thing is, we didn't know why. Nobody said anything.
Nobody knew why. We reached out to ArenaNet that day.
Yeah, I read the day after. It was the day after I saw this, like on Friday. And it wasn't until Tuesday that I got a response. And other sites did the same thing. I saw it on Massively LP, MMORPG, Gamma Sutra. They all said, yeah, this happened. We've reached out to ArenaNet. And nobody said anything about it until like I said, 2 days later. So they apparently didn't get back to anybody, and then just came back and said, yes, this is what we've done because of changes in Belgian law.
Well, and they didn't even initially get back to any of us. They just threw something on their forums.
Right, that's right. You're right. They said that on their forums.
And then they went back to the press who had asked all these questions and just said, hey, we just posted on our forums. Here's a link.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. That's how it went. So, yeah, it's...
What a disaster. So I got to ask this. Like, it's been a while, admittedly, since I've bought something from Guild Wars 2, and that's not because there's nothing that I don't want to buy. It's just generally our friends at ArenaNet, when it comes expansion time and stuff like that, they throw a bunch of stuff on our account so that we can go do the reviews and stuff. They're very generous with that type of stuff. So I haven't had to buy gems or anything. But from what I do remember, when I have bought bags and things like that, I remember, for the most part, just being able to go into their cash shop and buy the things that I wanted. Yeah, there were some random loot boxy type things in there, but that was a really small fraction of the cash shop as far as I remember, Jason.
Yeah, really, like 99% of it is just, like you said, extra inventory slots or outfits or whatever. Nothing at all random or loot boxy in any way, but they just decided apparently it was easier to shut down gem sales entirely. Although we're hearing reports that you can still like buy cards in stores for that,
right?
Then you can redeem those online. Early reports seem to indicate you couldn't even redeem those, but I can see how that would be a really big issue because you
something you already paid for.
You give Belgian GameStop $20, and then you go to the game and you can't put it in. So they've apparently wiggled on that, but why they've done this in the first place, we just don't have any idea.
Q, does this seem like, and again, Jason mentioned, we searched for other NCSoft games, thinking maybe it was a directive from up above. NCSoft has had dealings or communication with people, and they started shutting things down. We couldn't find anything Blade and Soul-wise. We couldn't find anything Ion-wise, indicating that the same things had happened there, so maybe it didn't come from NCSoft. Maybe Guild Wars 2 had some communication with authorities in Belgium. The team at ArenaNet had some communication. But if the whole crux of the situation was, as ArenaNet indicated, and as most of us guessed, this is probably loot box legislation oriented, isn't it like kind of cutting off your nose to spite your face to cut off your entire revenue stream rather than to just, hey, you can't buy those, what are they, the Lion's chests or whatever? And
a few other things like the mount licenses and so on, but yeah.
The random elements,
the few random
products.
Die packs, yeah.
If that was the issue, and that is the issue as far as the Belgium Gaming Authority goes, is those random purchases, if the bulk of your cash shop isn't those, why do you shut down the revenue stream entirely, Q?
I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's something else they read into it that we don't know about, or they just decided it would just be easier all the way across the board. Maybe they just don't want to pull the boxes. So they decided just to kill it there. I mean, they could not be making as much money off of sales that way in Belgium as they are in other places. So they just decided, no, we're just going to keep it the way we want it everywhere else and just not worry about this one country. Like,
For what it's worth, I'm looking at the Steam download stats for Belgium are 0.5% of global Steam traffic. So that might be approximately what the sales are,
right. So it may
draw
just
some.
not be worth it to bother with them. And they're just like, okay, we'll just turn it off there and just not have the hassle.
But even so, it's like no other company other than those four are getting hit. So it's like, why?
Yeah, and here's the weird thing, Jason. It isn't so much what they did. Like, I don't think any of us were surprised at what they did and why they were doing it. As soon as it was done, we kind of all went, oh, yeah, it probably has to do with the loot box thing, and yeah, everybody else is having to do that too. But the way they did it, I think, is more the problem.
Yeah.
There was nothing.
Yeah. I mean, if this was Thursday, if that's when it really was shut down, they would 4 or 5 days, including over a weekend, with absolute radio silence about it.
Yeah.
Now, one of the rules I have, one of the rules I always said, number one rule of gaming, when you change how people spend money, you have to communicate that in triplicate.
Right.
Normally to talk about things being, bad as in, oh, we're changing what your subscription price is, or we're changing these items in the loot box store or whatever. This is kind of on a different level than that. But that's still, you're not scamming anybody. You're not taking their money away from them in a way they weren't used to. You're doing the exact opposite, but still, you gotta communicate that immediately.
This even shut down specific purchases of the latest expansion too. Different,
Right.
not all of them. You can still buy the base one and stuff like that, but the ultimate packs and stuff like that, you couldn't buy those because those had gems in the bundle that they were selling, and it just seems like.
It seems like a clumsy thing if I didn't know better, I'd say it was some guy at ArenaNet just did this on his own, and now the rest of them have to cover for it.
Yeah, it almost seems like
I'd let that guy, just fall on his own sword.
Yeah, it seems like a really panicked move. Like
ArenaNet make you a panic move?
Like
No.
there was some type of impetus. Like Belgium authorities called and were like, "Dude, it's got to go now," and they were like, "Ah!"
But why ArenaNet? Why did they just call ArenaNet?
Right.
Not even
really
NCSoft.
bizarre. Really, really bizarre.
And again, if most of the stuff in their store wasn't, gambling, I don't know. And the thing is, me personally, if your store is set up so that you can actually buy individual items without having to do the whole loot box gambling thing, and you still have loot boxes, I think that's fair. You have an option to do one or the other, then it's on you.
Well, some things are loot box exclusive, though. So it's not like everything you can get.
Well, yeah,
Right.
I guess
It's just really bizarre to me because the way that they worded this, and it's a sentence, so I will read you the actual forum post because this is the extent of information from ArenaNet. Update on the purchase status for Belgium. In order to conform to changes in Belgian law, it hasn't become law there yet, by the way.
Technically, the law has always been there. It's just a question of how they're applying it.
Right, it's how it's being applied. So it's not a change to a law. It's a change to the classification of loot boxes being gambling, which means it would be covered under the existing law. Purchases of gems, the Ultimate Edition, and the Ultimate Edition upgrade have been disabled for residents of Belgium. We're continuing to investigate more flexible solutions. We apologize for any inconvenience this may cause our players. And this was, again, as Jason said, days after it was actually disabled did this come out. But the statement makes it seem like the buying of the gems was the problem. And as far as everything we've reported on Belgium related, it's not.
Well, I think that some people are saying, why didn't they just disable the sale of Black Lion?
That's what I've said.
Stuff? I think that's harder than it seems. I think at the very least.
Oh, come on.
No, because you'd have to have a different thing than in Belgium than you do for everything else. You have to take those spots out of your store or whatever.
You mean like Overwatch did?
Well, yeah, but there may be better programmers. I don't know.
I gotta believe that a company like ArenaNet or
Overwatch doesn't sell
NCSoft
anything else. So there you go. That's part of it.
I gotta believe it. What, Valve?
Well, I don't know.
I gotta believe that a company as big as ArenaNet or as savvy as ArenaNet, or with the backing of NCSoft, particularly with the backing of a very finance-oriented company like NCSoft, that if the choice is hey, we need to take a day and find a way to deactivate 5 different products in the store when it comes to Belgium, or cut off the revenue stream in Belgium entirely until we figure it out. I gotta believe you take a day or two, and the post is worded that it almost feels like their interpretation is the purchase of gems being the problem, and it's not.
No, I think they're just trying to they're trying to get ahead of it, and trying to no, it's not the purchase of gems. It's the notion that you can then use gems to buy the loot boxes. Right?
I mean, anyway, they obviously went about it a bad way. Because honestly, I was thinking, well, maybe it's the Ultimate Edition and another one that you're going to have.
The Ultimate Edition upgrade. So if you already had the regular and you upgraded to the Ultimate.
Okay, because I was just looking at it to see if maybe they threw some of the boxes. Because, some games do that. You buy the upgrade pack and you get additional chests or whatever as part of it, but no, it does, however, have 4,000 gems.
Yeah,
that's part of.
We knew. Yeah, that was specifically why, because I think somebody clarified that portion of it later, that those things had gems in it, and that's why it was just really bizarre. Like, whatever the impetus, I'm not faulting them for what they're doing. I think from a finance perspective, if it must, Jason, I have to believe that it's a situation where they couldn't. They absolutely just couldn't shut those couple of things off.
Sure.
This was the only option, because I have to believe they would have taken any option before this one. So
the whole news about Belgium broke like a month ago. So maybe they were trying to do it for a month, couldn't, and said finally, well, we got to do something.
You know what? I'll go with you that far, and I'll give you the benefit of the doubt on that one, just because I know they're a company that wants to make money, and this was the last link they probably wanted to do. All of that being said, if I go with you on all of it, at the end of the day, I don't think we have any argument between the two of us or between the three of us in that ArenaNet dropped the ball big time on the way this was communicated, the way it went down, and the lack of communication after it went down. That looks terrible in my view, Q.
Yeah, it's not great. They could have, if they've already spent almost a month trying to do it, they could have taken like another day and at least said, hey guys, it has to happen. Unfortunately, it has to happen now, and then turn it off the next day.
Yeah, and that I can see as being a very quick reaction, Jason. Belgium says you got 30 days to do this. They spend 30 days doing it. We've hit the 30-day deadline. Let's take it down. We got to take it down right now. But I'm thinking on day 27, there probably should have been an announcement made. In 3 days, we're going to have to shut this off. We've tried working around it. We're going to continue to try working around it in other ways. But for now, our only option is to shut down gem purchases entirely. So in 3 days, that's what we're going to do.
My only thought is that, they were required to do this as quickly as possible at some point, and then they were waiting to get the lawyers to talk so they could get the right wording or whatever. But the fact that it's like it's a 2-sentence thing on the forums, that didn't require 4 days from a lawyer, I think, to figure out. So.
Right, and hopefully we'll get more information, but I'm not holding my breath. We barely got the notice from them.
I actually asked if we could learn more, and they said, well, we'll tell you when we're ready, basically.
Right. Yeah, so don't hold your breath.
When we're ready, just like Arena. Yeah.
So
and just to clarify, because people are
5 days after they do it.
Just to clarify, you don't buy the chests in the gem shop. You buy the keys to open the chest to get in games.
Yeah. I feel the
same
need to get into the minutia, but you're right. A Guild Wars 2 player may say something, and so there you go. Let's slide over and do the weekly bombs. Bump. I'm gonna go.
Ding? Can we get the ding from Path of Exile?
Yeah, Barney, pick up an item there so we can hear the Sonic bell. I'm gonna give a dub bomb actually to NCSoft and the way they're handling the shutdown of WildStar. By all my accounts, it's at least as far as working for Carbine, that probably sucked, right? And came out of nowhere. Hey, you're going to get laid off. I think you probably saw it coming, but it still sucks when you have no idea it's going to be happening tomorrow and it happens tomorrow. That sucks, but that's also the nature of most businesses when that unfortunate circumstance happens. As far as shutting the game down itself and sunsetting it, the communication's been there, the ample warning's been there. It's going to shut down at the end of November, so you still have like 2 months to go through and do some playing if you want to. The refunds are being issued on all platforms and everything. It is a far cry from what they did with City of Heroes. So I have to, if I'm going to bash them for that, I got to give credit where it's due on this one. And it is by far a better process than what Telltale Games is doing. But since that's not free to play, we'll have to skip that for another time. Jason, you're up.
That's because NCSoft still has money, unlike Telltale.
True.
Although they might get getting their asses sued, so or Telltale will, not NCSoft. Anyway, I'm gonna give an A-bomb to ArenaNet for just the way they're handling all this stuff. Whether it's a policy or the communication, just bad all around. So, A-bomb to you guys.
Q.
Speaking of Telltale, I realize it's not free to play, but I'm going to give an A-bomb to people who spent time sending messages to devs going, why can't you just go and finish The Walking Dead for free? Modders do it, so why don't you? Just stop.
Oh.
Stop. You're bad people. Just stop.
From the viewers, we've got, first up, Z1 Gamer here says, greetings, free-to-play cast. Been watching the show for a while now, over a year, but this is my first time commenting. Love the show, so keep up the good work.
Yeah, first time comment. Woo.
Thank you. Much appreciated, Z1. I'll go straight to my bombs. First, a dub bomb to Black Desert for still being quite unique, even a long time after its release. I feel the combat in the game is the best I've seen in any MMORPG, with Terra being second. I don't play that much, but do check in for a couple of days to a week every now and then, playing the Russian version, which is free to play. And an A-bomb to Troy. We want our Bless Online video. Been waiting forever for that one. No, seriously, I bet it's going to be awesome. Troy, has just... he's just pumped his own benchmark that now he's gonna have to top his own. The video didn't have to be as good a month ago as it does today, right? I mean, he did that to himself. He did that to himself. So Z1, thank you for the feedback, and I agree with your A-bomb to Troy. Jason, go ahead.
Lurch 2000 says, City of Heroes shutdown was completely out of the blue. The only other title I could think to even remotely come close to compare would be, I think, Marvel. He says Marvel on Marvel Heroes, I suppose.
Yeah.
And yes, I was a COH player. I do miss it, but life goes on.
I think that's an apt comparison, City of Heroes to Marvel Heroes, as far as
Why
timing.
do superhero games always get the shaft like that?
Right? Go ahead, Q.
Yeah, Champions Online is still going.
Anyway, Marco I can't say words.
Zivkovic.
Sorry, I just can't do some combinations of letters and together. It's my fault. Ever since Alex introduced lockboxes, I've been saying that it's gambling and it should be illegal. Glad that the rest of the world is finally realizing this. It took them a while.
Usually does. Usually does. Miko-chan13 says, dub bomb to the new story episode in Guild Wars 2. Might be the best one we've ever had. I need to play more games, though. All my bombs are for ArenaNet. Of course, an A-bomb to Article 13. I want to see Quake Champions try a Battle Royale. One last meme before the ban. Yeah, so our friends in the EU, Article 11 and 13 in this, an amendment that was passed, or a proposition that was passed there. Article 13 being referred to as the meme ban, for those of you that don't know. It is trying to put the onus on the content sites to enforce copyright. So like right now, if you post something to YouTube and it has music that Q made in it, it is up to Q to log a complaint with YouTube to enforce the copyright on her music that I used in my video. This law is trying to turn that around and put it on Facebook and on YouTube and other sites like that to enforce copyright on behalf of the copyright holders. A very sticky situation that could have some really unfortunate side effects that I don't think were foreseen. So yeah, I'm going to have to give an A-bomb to Article 13 as well, Emiko-chan. Go ahead, Jason.
James Esparza says, Realm Royale is never leaving testing, let's be honest. But to bomb out to ESL, it feels good returning to a game, Elder Scrolls Legends. It feels good returning to a game that was said to be dead on arrival many years later to find out I've got to wait in a 30-second queue before logging in.
Woot woot. Q, finish it up.
Squeezy. Oh, we're back to Article 13. A-bomb to Article 13. I'm not from the EU, but when something like this passes anywhere, it only then becomes a matter of time for other countries to also adopt the same policy. I told you I can't speak today. Sure, I'm sad about the possibility of death of memes, but there's also the possibility of true game reviews ending from what can be read in the article. It's up to the copyright owners to say what's allowed to be posted about their product or not, as there's no mention of allowing fair use. What are your opinions on the matter?
So I kind of gave my initial opinion when I gave the high overview of what this is and why it's called like the meme ban, is because things like a satire are supposed to, and fair use, as mentioned by that user, are supposed to be allowed under this type of thing. But if you put the onus for copyright enforcement on somebody like YouTube, for example, we've seen how well YouTube algorithms work to accomplish a number of different things. How can you guarantee that Jason creating a parody of a music video is going to be allowed under the satire or parody clauses, or the review of me reviewing a game would be covered under the fair use practices when you're creating an algorithm to enforce copyright, and that's a pretty straightforward thing. So again, the unintended consequences. I think this is generally a bad idea. I think anytime you have a company like YouTube lobbying against something like this, I'm actually on YouTube's side. And that's a little weird for me to say, Jason. So any thoughts from you, Jason?
I'm just reading about it now. I honestly didn't even know about this until just now. So, but yeah, it sounds bad.
Yeah.
That's my thought.
Q, your thoughts?
I mean, I read about it like basically when it was happening. I saw it trending on Twitter, so clicked to find out what the heck Article 13 was. Maybe it was some Marvel thing or something. But, you know,
boy, were you disappointed.
Right? I mean, I just reading through it, and they gave a slide overview of, I think, Article 11 was the other one that's considered bad. And I was just slightly horrified at the entire thing. And I mean, I have a degree in art history. So one of the things they did make us do was learn about copyright. And this is just going to be a mess. It's like when our government several years ago were going to try the copyright czar thing, where basically it was going to end up being like, well, if you put it on the internet and don't explicitly copyright it, we'll copyright it for you, and it's ours. Yep. Kind of, it falls into that same mess, and I'm not a fan at all.
So I'm reading this thing about the link tax, the Article 11.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is that like if we write an article and we link to something in the New York Times, whatever, do we owe them money?
It's a mess. It's a mess.
I mean,
both of these things in a previous incarnation, by the way, failed to pass.
Sure.
And then, of course, they just recently passed. Now, there's still a lot that has to happen here. I mean, because with the EU, when these legislative things are passed, then they have to go to the individual countries, who it's up to them to make their own individual laws that enforce that type of thing. So there could be variance by country. It's still a mess and a long way from being implemented in any real big fashion, but it is something that you just look at and go, this is a terrible idea.
It's written by people who don't use the internet.
Right.
Basically.
And don't understand art.
Right. Question of the week last week, loot boxes and EA. Are they going to end up in court in Belgium? And if they do, what's going to happen? Z1 Gamer chimes in again saying EA will most definitely go to court, in my opinion. If they wanted to settle, they would have just disabled loot boxes for Belgium in the first place. But with FIFA Ultimate Team, there's just so much money at stake. What they want is to win and show people that loot boxes are here to stay. Sadly, for them, I predict they will lose that battle despite their millions. That's what we should all hope for anyway, so everyone, make a wish. Can't wait for the day when FIFA Ultimate Team packs get banned everywhere and EA's revenue drops by 50%. We'll see you on the next cast. Z1 Gamer, definitely chime in a lot more. Great opinions there on that one.
Especially since you had the exact same choices that I did. So go to court and they're going to lose. That's what I said last week.
Go ahead, Jason.
Jacob Peter Christensen says, EA will lose the case in court for sure, but they'll get around the ruling by changing their loot box mechanics in some cheesy way so they can keep them in their games, since loot boxes and microtransactions make up roughly 70% of their annual revenue. That I can completely believe. You look at like what Valve did with their Dota 2 loot boxes. Yeah, they'll figure a way. They might even use that as a template. So
that's exactly what I thought of. We talked about that on a previous show. Go ahead, Q.
Be short. I think we may see an adjustment of laws after this situation works itself out. The cynical part of me believes Mike is in. I read that is in on it. And I'm like, Mike did that.
You know what? Yeah, I'm in on it. I'm EA's lobbyist. You could tell by the millions of dollars I just have stacked around me.
The cynical part of me believes that Mike is onto it. Money will be exchanged and this is swept away. Another part of me believes that if you infer a country is not a real country and disrespect the people coming after you, then you're setting yourself up for failure. I think it'll go to court and we might find some really interesting things in discovery. I'm hoping this stokes the fire against the loot box and in-game gambling systems. Even if it's not a total win, I think it will go another step towards eliminating the practice of inserting words that don't belong.
Be short, I think everybody on this panel is in exactly the same position you are. We might not win this one, but it keeps moving the ball forward in a way that we all think it should go. Question of the week for this week. Well, since it's now officially shutting down, we have the date and everything. I want to know, what are you going to miss about WildStar? Now, whether you were a longtime player or not, or maybe you just watched some things, that's fine. What did the game do in a neat way or correctly that you feel other MMOs need to do in the future? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure you leave your weekly bomb, da bomb for something good, a bomb for something bad, or your question for the panel. And Q, until then, where can everybody find you?
Hanging out on the Twitters at Quintland. I'm not streaming right now because I'm too stressed with this potential move. So.
Jason.
Hanging out on Twitter at Winter Informal, and I am streaming twitch.tv/Jason Winter.
I'm Mike Byrne, aka Magicman. You can follow me personally on Twitter right there at MagicMan1. But more importantly, while you're there, follow at MMOBomb so we can tweet at you the latest articles, interviews, previews, first look videos, free-to-play casts, free-to-play weekly episodes with a brand new host filling in for Zach Sharps as he makes his way in this crazy world of ours. Until next time, stay safe. We'll see you on the servers.